The moment the verdict was announced, the entire courtroom fell into complete silence. Danielle Colby, the woman who once captivated millions of viewers with her rebellious charm and unmistakable style on American Pickers, collapsed, her hands trembling and her eyes vacant. The razor-sharp smile was gone. The confident posture was gone. Before the cameras, there was only a person facing the final cost of a hidden truth. What drove the woman once praised as the creative soul of American reality TV into this world, this abyss, and the tears she shed that day? Were those tears of true regret or mourning for a plan left unfinished? A person once shrouded in ambiguity who became the rebellious icon of American Pickers. Don't forget to leave a comment with number 1 if you sympathize with Danielle Colby, or number 0 if you have a different opinion. Like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss what happens next, where we will reveal all the secrets of this story. Danielle Colby did not rise from the world of television. She was also unfamiliar with the spotlight of mainstream fame. Born and raised in Davenport, Iowa, a city in the Midwest, no one expected it to produce a reality TV icon with a punk and burlesque style. From a young age, Danielle displayed a rebellious spirit and a refusal to conform. Instead of pursuing an academic path, she immersed herself in street performance within independent art communities, quickly becoming a renowned burlesque dancer across the Midwest. Her body was adorned with tattoos, her gaze cold, and her presence both classic and defiant. She drew attention wherever she appeared, whether on the dance floor or at a booth in a flea market. Colby commented that for her, burlesque was not just a performance. It was a form of self-liberation. She founded the burlesque troupe Lou Stache and performed in shows across cities from Chicago to New Orleans. Those who knew her at the time all agreed that Danielle possessed a peculiar charm, half seductive, half defiant. However, her life took a turn in 2004 when she reconnected with an old acquaintance, Mike Wolfe. At the time, Wolfe was managing the antique archaeology industry and invited Danielle to join him as his office manager. Initially, her tasks were simple: organizing paperwork, managing schedules, and providing logistical support. But everything changed in 2010 with the launch of American Pickers. Initially, the producers focused solely on the duo of Wolfe and Frank Fritz, two men traveling across the U.S. in search of hidden treasures. Danielle appeared only briefly in each episode, introducing locations, making phone calls, and providing a foundation. However, it was her authenticity, depth, and distinctiveness that captivated viewers. In a world dominated by collectors, Danielle Shawn stood out like a brilliant shard, unblended, unafraid of judgment, and determined to be herself. Gradually, her screen time increased. Viewers no longer saw her as the secretary from Iowa, but as a decisive woman. She analyzed the items, negotiated prices, and ensured the smooth operation of the American Pickers. Many observers described Colby as the hidden soul of the show. While Mike set the rhythm and Frank exuded rustic charm, Danielle served as the link, infusing the art with a touch of wildness and vibrant energy. She did more than captivate TV audiences. She expanded her personal influence. Her social media platforms attracted hundreds of thousands of followers. She launched her own fashion line, designing outfits inspired by punk rock and retro music. Her performances were community-oriented and became a symbol of feminism in the traditionally male-dominated world of antiques. However, that very fame placed Danielle in a precarious position. As she became more well-known, She found herself caught between Mike and Frank, the two pillars of the show with opposing views and temperaments. The more frequently she appeared on screen, the more indispensable she became, and every action of hers was scrutinized more closely. As her personal brand grew, Colby increasingly relied on the public's expectations of her image, authentic, strong, unique, yet controlled. In an undeniable reality, Danielle possessed a deep understanding of the mechanics of reality television. She knew when to speak, when to stay silent, when to smile, and when to hold back to create a stage effect. She was calculated and sharp. But precisely because of this, in the eyes of those who only focus on results, Danielle could easily become the ideal suspect when the scandal broke. Especially when Frank Fritz, a close friend of hers, met with an untimely death, leaving behind journal entries that led to negative judgments of her. Danielle started as an invisible figure behind the scenes of the reality TV show. Yet through her personality and intellect, she transformed herself into the focal point of the show. A woman rising from the wings to center stage, from a supporting role to an icon. But as television history has shown, the cost of fame can be an unpredictable and swift downfall. The success of American Pickers didn't just stem from the rare antiques, but also from the interactions between the three main characters. Mike Wolfe, sophisticated and controlling. Frank Fritz, down-to-earth and likable. And Danielle Colby, bold and sharp. But behind the studio lights, nothing was as harmonious as the polished image portrayed. The tension between Mike and Frank was no secret in the production world. They disagreed on profit sharing, directing the show, and, more controversially, the role of Danielle. A former editor at History Channel from 2016 to 2019 revealed that during several internal meetings, Mike expressed his dissatisfaction with Danielle's increased screen presence. He felt the show was off-tone because of her punk attitude, the editor recalled. What no one anticipated, however, was that the closeness between Mike and Danielle created a rift. Frank, who had collaborated with Mike since the company's inception, began to feel sidelined. No longer the close friends they once were, Mike and Frank frequently clashed over filming locations, item pricing, and business strategy. Danielle, initially wanting to remain neutral, gradually became entangled in these conflicts, further intensifying the tension within the team. Amidst the storm of conflict, the crew members described the arguments escalating beyond just the appraisal of antiques into a power struggle among the three. By the end of 2019, Frank officially left the show citing health reasons. However, those in the industry understood that the split was anything but friendly. In an interview with Antique Monthly, Frank wrote, "I no longer feel trusted. Everything is happening behind my back." Shortly after, leaked internal emails began to surface. Frank suspected that Danielle had fully sided with Mike and abandoned her neutral stance. Many messages showed Danielle reporting directly to Mike about the partners' schedules and decisions regarding activities outside of the show that the three had previously handled together. The suspicion deepened further when private messages between Danielle and Mike were revealed. In one exchange, Danielle wrote, "Frank is losing control. If he comes back to the show, everything will collapse." The message appeared just weeks before Frank officially withdrew. Although Danielle insisted it was merely a momentary outburst, the consequences were far more severe. The situation continued to escalate. When Frank's personal journal surfaced after the scandal, he wrote, "I no longer trust Danielle. She always smiles, but I feel like I'm being watched. I know they're plotting to get rid of me." According to behavioral analysts, These journal entries revealed serious psychological tension and a widespread sense of betrayal. A former production assistant recalled that Frank had once abruptly left the set after seeing Danielle and Mike having a private conversation in a car. He simply said, "I know they're hiding something," and walked away. The assistant stated, "As for Danielle, she remained silent throughout, only making one statement. I always considered Frank family, and if he feels hurt, I'm sorry, but I can't control everything." However, control had become increasingly important. From being a backstage coordinator, she gradually took command of scheduling partner engagements and even selecting filming locations, a soft power that even Mike Wolf relied on. As Frank was pushed out, Danielle's role expanded further, raising eyebrows among production staff. A leaked internal document from 2023 revealed that Danielle had access to the full database of partners, auction information, and inventories of antiques. She was the only one, aside from Mike, authorized to sign commercial contracts. All of this, along with her close personal relationship with Mike, fueled the spread of conspiracy theories. The issue reached a tipping point when the FBI announced they were investigating the death of Frank Fritz. What began as concern over internal discord quickly escalated into a criminal investigation. U.S. media began to scrutinize every detail. Danielle's unexplained absence during private business trips with Mike to Puerto Rico, where she had purchased a property worth over $400,000 almost immediately, raised questions about her relationships and motivations. After receiving a transfer from Mike's shell company through the program's intermediary, Danielle Colby was thrust into the spotlight of suspicion. News reports no longer referred to her as an inspiration, but as the most dangerous woman in American reality television. Public opinion became polarized. Some viewed her as a scapegoat, while others believed she held the darkest secrets of the show. A question soon arose. Was Danielle's fame the result of personal talent, or was it the outcome of strategically consolidating power and eliminating rivals? Was it a calculated move or an accidental downfall in a harsh environment? While the answer remains unclear, the winds of doubt have created a storm. Danielle Colby, once praised as the creative soul of American Pickers, now stands at a crossroads in her fate. And with Frank Fritz's name now linked to a federal investigation into his untimely death, the final pieces of this dark puzzle are beginning to emerge. On September 30th, 2024, the news of Frank Fritz's passing at the age of 60 spread across social media and morning news programs. Best known as the co-founder and on-screen face of American Pickers, Fritz's death was initially attributed by Iowa health authorities to complications from a delayed stroke he had suffered 2 years earlier. However, just weeks after a quiet family funeral, a series of concerning details emerged that shocked America. Frank may not have died from natural causes. The matter began when FBI agents arrived unannounced at the hospital where Fritz had been treated. Internal federal sources indicated they had received anonymous tips suggesting unusual interventions in Frank's care during his final months. The allegations included changes to his treatment regimen, incorrect medication dosages, and phone calls recorded between close associates, including Danielle Colby, that did not match the hospital records. The investigators later discovered a copy of Frank's personal journal in a small storage unit in Davenport. In the distressed scroll, he wrote, "I know they want me to disappear. Every time I wake up, someone is tampering with my medication. Danielle says she's just checking the dosage, but I don't trust her anymore." These tense entries became crucial evidence, opening a new direction for the investigation. Had someone exploited Frank's deteriorating health to orchestrate his death? The case took another turn with a blurry security camera footage from Frank's neighborhood. On the night he was found unconscious, a black SUV, later identified as Mike Wolf's, was seen stopping outside his house. Although the image was blurry, the FBI's facial recognition software returned a 74% match with Danielle Colby sitting in the passenger seat. Her phone was placed nearby between 8:30 and 10:15 p.m., right around the time Frank lost contact with his neighbor. But perhaps most damning were the text messages obtained from the telecom backup server under federal order. In one exchange, Danielle texted Mike, "Now he's alone. No one is scheduled to check on him until tomorrow. The window is closed." Mike replied, "Handled. Delete this topic." The timestamp on the exchange was 9:47 p.m., less than an hour before a neighbor discovered Frank unconscious in his home. As the evidence mounted, investigators began to focus on potential financial motives. In the 12 months leading up to his death, Frank had sued a branch of antique archaeology in Iowa, Mike Wolf's company, for reducing his share of the program's licensing revenue. That lawsuit was still pending when Frank passed away. Even more suspicious, 2 days after his death, $175,000 was transferred from Vintage Solutions LLC, a foreign entity linked to Mike, into Danielle's bank account. The FBI quickly subpoenaed Danielle Colby as a material witness in their murder investigation. Tabloid headlines swiftly reported, "Danielle Colby, from muse to murder accomplice." And Frank Fritz's death was no accident. She knew the reason. Why? Even many of her former supporters began asking why she remained silent, why there were no public statements, and why she seemed to be present at every crossroads of evidence and motive. At a brief press conference, Danielle's lawyer, Margaret Wilson, asserted, "My client is innocent. These accusations are based on fragmented data, without context." However, in a CBS poll of 25,500 Americans in November 2024, 63% believed Danielle was directly involved in Frank's death. 27% considered her a financial accomplice, and only 10% believed she was completely innocent. Subsequent financial forensic reports revealed that Danielle had authority to sign off on at least 3 major production contracts, including a $2 million deal. A $3 million licensing agreement came shortly after Frank left the show. Tax records also showed her personal spending spiked dramatically from mid-2022 to early 2024, including real estate, collectible cars, and expenses for her own side projects. By this point, the case had transcended a mere reality TV scandal. It became a symbol of America's eroding trust in their favorite reality shows. Frank Fritz, long beloved as the honest picker, now found himself at the center of a suspected murder conspiracy. And standing in the light of that suspicion was Danielle Colby, once the silent partner behind his success, now the central figure in a federal investigation, a name that made millions stop in their tracks at the mere mention. On January 17, 2025, the federal court in Des Moines, Iowa, officially convened the trial of Danielle Colby in what was described as the biggest reality TV explosion of the decade. Every seat in the courtroom was filled from early morning. Media outlets ranging from CNN and the New York Times to TMZ and YouTube channels focused on pop culture were present. Hundreds of fans, some of whom had once idolized Colby, gathered outside the courthouse holding signs. Some prayed for justice, while others carried the slogan, "She knows." The trial, lasting over 6 weeks, recreated the full portrait of a public figure once praised as the quintessential eccentric. However, it was this very eccentricity that prosecutors argued was a carefully constructed mask to conceal a calculated intention. In his opening statement, U.S. Attorney Bradley Harris, a federal prosecutor with a history of handling major media fraud cases, wasted no time. Danielle Colby is not the murderer, but she opened the door for crime to enter. Evidence was revealed in stages, each disclosure further damaging Colby's public image. First were 218 text messages between her and Mike Wolf obtained from a telecommunications server. Among them was a chilling message: "Now he's alone," along with exchanges coordinating medication monitoring schedules and reporting on Frank's condition. A message read aloud by the prosecutor caused the courtroom to fall into silence. "Should we call a doctor immediately, or let fate take its course?" Danielle texted. Mike replied, "It's too late." Next, the financial analysis team appointed by the FBI presented their findings by tracking the flow of money from accounts at BIS in Luxembourg. They identified 6 significant transfers into accounts under Danielle Colby's name. One such transfer occurred just 48 hours after Frank's death, labeled as an expedited business consulting activity. Prosecutors emphasized that no consulting activities took place during that time. Witnesses testified one after another. A production assistant testified that they overheard Danielle telling Mike in the logistics office, "If Frank comes back, our whole plan will fall apart." Another crew member recalled, "Once I saw her tear pages from Frank's notebook and stuff them into her coat. When asked, she laughed and said, 'Don't let the 2 old men ruin the shot.'" While these details seemed minor when considered individually, together they formed a suspicious pattern. Danielle's defense attorney, Margaret Wilson, launched a strong rebuttal. She argued that the messages had been taken out of context, the financial documents were speculative, and the witnesses were driven by bias and personal motives. Another defense strategy was to portray Danielle as a woman trapped by the schemes of a more powerful man, Mike Wolf. They brought in a psychologist to analyze the codependent dynamic between Colby and Wolf, emphasizing that Danielle was not a criminal. She was a product of power manipulation. However, the prosecution quickly brought up previously unreleased footage showing a heated argument between Danielle and Mike in an office in February 2022. Although the sound was somewhat faint, Danielle's words were clear. "I can't clean up this mess. If you keep going, I'm out. We're done with you." This evidence, though not explosive, played a crucial role as the final piece in establishing complicity. A terrible secret has just been revealed. If you want to uncover more shocking details of this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any new updates. The trial reached its climax on day 19 when Danielle herself took the stand in her defense. She appeared in simple attire, light makeup, and red-lined eyes. For over 5 hours, Colby recounted her experiences during Frank's final 3 years. "I loved Frank like a brother, but his relationship with Mike turned into a battle that left me stuck in the middle." She admitted to sending careless messages and confessed that she suspected something was wrong but didn't dare intervene. When directly asked by the prosecution, "Did you know Mike Wolf planned to harm Frank Fritz?" Danielle paused for 12 seconds before answering. A message read aloud by the prosecutor caused the courtroom to fall silent. "Should we call a doctor immediately or let fate take its course?" Danielle texted. Mike replied, "It's too late." Next, the financial analysis team appointed by the FBI presented their findings by tracking the flow of money from accounts at BIS in Luxembourg. They identified 6 significant transfers into accounts under Danielle Colby's name. One such transfer occurred just 48 hours after Frank's death, labeled as an expedited business consulting activity. Prosecutors emphasized that no consulting activities took place during that time. Witnesses testified one after another. A production assistant testified that they overheard Danielle telling Mike in the logistics office, "If Frank comes back, our whole plan will fall apart." Another crew member recalled, "Once, I saw her tear pages from Frank's notebook and stuff them into her coat. When asked, she laughed and said, 'Don't let the two old men ruin the shot.'" While these details seemed minor when considered individually, together they formed a suspicious pattern. Danielle's defense attorney, Margaret Wilson, launched a strong rebuttal. She argued that the messages had been taken out of context, the financial documents were speculative, and the witnesses were driven by bias and personal motives. Another defense strategy was to reframe Danielle as a woman trapped by the schemes of a more powerful man, Mike Wolfe. They brought in a psychologist to analyze the codependent dynamic between Colby and Wolfe, emphasizing that Danielle was not a criminal. She was a product of power manipulation. However, the prosecution quickly pointed to previously unreleased footage showing a heated argument between Danielle and Mike in an office in February 2022. Though the audio was faint, Danielle's words were clear. "I can't clean up this mess. If you keep going, I'm out. We're done with you." This evidence, while not explosive, served as the final piece in establishing complicity. The trial reached its climax on day 19 when Danielle took the stand in her own defense. Dressed simply with minimal makeup and red-rimmed eyes, she testified for over 5 hours. Colby recounted her experiences during Frank's final 3 years. "I loved Frank like a brother, but his relationship with Mike turned into a war that left me caught in the middle." She admitted to sending careless messages and confessed she suspected something was wrong but didn't dare intervene. The court sentenced Danielle Colby to 18 years in federal prison with no parole for the first 12 years. Danielle collapsed onto the table. Her face, once familiar to millions of viewers, was now streaked with tears. No one offered comfort. No one stood to applaud. Only a profound emptiness filled the room, as if a beloved drama had ended on an episode no one wanted to watch. Behind her, reporters began filing out of the courtroom. Some raised their phones to update headlines. Former American star sentenced to 18 years. Outside the courthouse gates, the crowd no longer held signs. They simply stared at the iron doors through which an icon had entered and would never emerge unchanged. The 18-year prison sentence, handed down on March 3, 2025, marked not only the end of Danielle Colby's television career, but also served as a catalyst for the wholesale collapse of the entire media ecosystem and brands that once revolved around her. Like a structure built on a fragile foundation, when the cornerstone was removed, everything imploded with dizzying speed. The very next day, History Channel released a brief press statement. Following the recent verdict, History will terminate all current and future collaborations with Danielle Colby. All content featuring her will temporarily be removed from our broadcasting platforms. Episodes of American Pickers featuring Danielle were quickly removed from streaming services. The official YouTube channel of the show disabled comments and deleted dozens of videos featuring her. The vintage fashion line, the Kohl's Rust Revival, founded by her, immediately shut down its online store and announced refunds for all undelivered orders. Scheduled burlesque performances in New Orleans, Austin, and San Diego were all canceled, leading to estimated losses exceeding $300,000. On social media, Danielle's Instagram account, once followed by over 420,000 people, went completely silent. Her previous posts about life philosophy, creative freedom, and feminism were flooded with hundreds of thousands of critical comments. The online community became deeply polarized. Some users expressed outrage, feeling betrayed, while others continued to defend a woman who had once defied social norms to assert herself. Notably, the silence extended even to those closest to her. Mike Wolfe, who had appeared in numerous intimate photos with Danielle, made no public statement. Within media circles, this stance was interpreted as a strategic split. A magazine reporter revealed that during a private meeting with representatives from the History Channel, Wolfe agreed to remain entirely silent on the Colby case in exchange for the opportunity to develop a new television format unrelated to the previous scandal. Frank Fritz has since passed away and has been honored as a martyr. Fan groups across Reddit, Facebook, and TikTok organized Frank Day, a memorial event for a figure they believed had been abandoned, forgotten, and ultimately driven to his death. A GoFundMe campaign titled Justice for Frank quickly raised over $1 million, $2 million within 3 weeks. The funds were directed toward organizations supporting victims of manipulation and psychological abuse. Throughout the trial and subsequent sentencing, Danielle made no public statements beyond her courtroom testimony. However, according to a close source, Colby wrote a handwritten letter to her daughter, which included the line, "I once believed I was strong because I lived my truth, but now I see that living truthfully without accountability is just a false kind of freedom." This downfall, according to cultural media expert Emily Travis of Northwestern University, was not merely the result of a legal scandal, but a cumulative reaction from audiences weary of reality television. "We are entering the post-truth era," Travis wrote in an analysis for The Atlantic. "When viewers can no longer distinguish performance from reality, any scandal can become the tipping point." Indeed, the Danielle Colby case acted as a domino effect, triggering a wave of behind-the-scenes investigations that followed. Within 2 months of the sentencing, at least 3 other reality television shows on major platforms were audited over suspicions of staging and manipulating participants. The Federal Communications Commission, FCC, even introduced a new regulatory framework for unscripted programming, requiring transparent reporting of participant payments for pre-arranged scenarios and the authenticity of depicted narratives. In the artifact-collecting community, the Colby-Fritz-Wolfe scandal became the dominant topic at nearly every major convention that year. Authenticity. Auction house associations and archaeological experts came together to tighten provenance verification protocols. A savvy representative stated bluntly, "The American Pickers scandal exposed a moral void in how historically significant objects are commercialized. We can't turn culture into a script." Perhaps the most profound impact was personal. Those who once saw Danielle Colby as a pioneering symbol of feminism now face a difficult question. Can one separate the true nature of a person from their wrongdoing? Was she a woman brave enough to live authentically, or someone who knew the truth and chose silence? One article concluded poignantly, "Colby inspired thousands of women to step into the light, but as we've now seen, the light can burn." With the verdict in place, Danielle has been banned from appearing on television, leading businesses, or performing artistically for at least the next decade. Yet what was lost runs deeper than a prison sentence: her moral authority. In the eyes of many, she is no longer merely complicit in wrongdoing, but a living testament to the consequences of compromise. No one falls alone. Danielle Colby's downfall didn't just shatter a career and a reputation, it fractured an entire ideology of manufactured authenticity. One person fell, and the world came crashing down with her. Danielle Colby's downfall is not merely the tragedy of an individual or a single television show. It stands as a clear marker that the era of reality television has reached its end. For the past 2 decades, from singing and cooking competitions to docu-style portrayals of everyday life, reality TV has symbolized an age in which audiences craved real people and genuine experiences over the polished fictions of cinema. But the Danielle Fritz Wolfe case revealed a different truth, that reality was often fabricated, manipulated, and at times indistinguishable from a political drama riddled with behind-the-scenes scheming. Documents obtained from behind-the-scenes contracts revealed that many filming locations had been arranged up to 3 weeks in advance. Artifacts were pre-selected, and homeowners were paid to appear surprised upon discovering Danielle Colby. As the logistics coordinator, she served as the primary point of contact responsible for compensating these amateur performers. One former crew member admitted, "We maintained an entire spreadsheet of desired items, emotional reactions, and negotiation scripts. The more natural it looked, the more staged it actually was." It seems like it worked even better. But that naturalness was entirely of our making. These revelations sent shockwaves through the public. Viewers not only lost trust in American pickers, but began to question the entire reality television industry. Stars from shows like Storage Wars, Deadliest Catch, and Gold Rush were all mentioned on social media under the hashtag #IsItReal or is it fake? For the first time in nearly a decade, the FCC convened a public hearing with representatives from reality TV production companies. The issue of transparency in unscripted content and the responsibility of producers to the public became a hot-button topic. A bill titled the Reality Entertainment Accountability Act was proposed, which mandates that all content labeled as unscripted disclose the percentage of staged payments made to participants and any scenes that were reenacted. While the bill is still under debate, it has sparked strong reactions from both lawmakers and content producers. Meanwhile, streaming platforms were forced to adjust. Netflix removed more than 25 reality TV shows within 3 months of the Danielle scandal and added a disclaimer: some scenes may have been staged for entertainment purposes. YouTube, which hosts thousands of clips from American pickers, adjusted its algorithm to lower the prioritization of videos tagged as authentic discovery to prevent viewers from being misled. However, the impact extended beyond the media landscape. At antique fairs, where many had long benefited from the reality TV show, sales dropped by as much as 35% in the first quarter of 2025. Collectors became more cautious as customers began questioning the value of an item not only in terms of its material worth, but also the authenticity of its backstory. A survey conducted by Collectors Weekly with 1,000 collectors found that 64% believed reality television had stripped the innocence from the hobby of antique collecting. On social media, where celebrities from reality TV shows were once lauded, a wave of skepticism now took hold. A widely shared tweet read, "We used to think they were storytellers, but they were just directors without a remote control." Notably, this wave of doubt didn't just affect the big names. It also impacted smaller creators on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, who also produced clips blending fact and fiction. The rise of skepticism surrounding content authenticity made viewers question the integrity of even everyday influencers, blurring the lines between genuine self-expression and curated personas. The Danielle case acted as a wake-up call. Audiences had changed. They no longer accepted staged reality as a given. Media studies departments at prestigious universities like Stanford, NYU, and UCLA quickly incorporated the Danielle case into their curricula. The topic of how authenticity had become a tool for manipulation garnered significant attention, especially in the context of reality television. At a seminar hosted by the Columbia Journalism School, experts discussed the impact of the Danielle scandal on reality TV and the shift in ethical perspectives. This case forced the television industry to confront the reality of producing so-called reality shows and the authenticity issues that viewers had been unaware of. Scholars concluded, the Colby scandal is the Watergate of reality television. It forced the industry to reassess itself, not to eliminate reality TV, but to restore the transparency it should have always upheld. In some ways, it seemed like an isolated trial had caused consequences akin to a storm sweeping through audiences, producers, platforms, and academic institutions. Danielle Colby's downfall was not just the result of personal mistakes. It symbolized a system that had gone unchecked for far too long. And the bitter irony, tragically, was that by the time this reckoning came, it was too late to fix it. After the sentencing, Danielle Colby was transferred to a federal detention facility in Alderson, West Virginia, a medium-security prison known for housing many women involved in high-profile cases. Stripped of her cameras and staged as though in actual footage, Danielle now existed solely as an inmate. She began her sentence with no less than 12 years to serve. Internal reports indicated that she maintained a reserved attitude, avoiding community activities and steering clear of heated discussions in the dining hall or gymnasium. Instead, she spent most of her time in the prison library, reading extensive records and writing in her journal. A nameless library manager observed, KBY often borrows works on business ethics, behavioral psychology, and memoirs of social activists. It seems like she's trying to understand what really happened, not just in relation to Frank, but also to herself. From within the prison, Danielle wrote letters to her daughter, excerpts of which were later disclosed to the media by family members. In these letters, she did not beg for forgiveness, deny her wrongdoing, or offer excuses. She simply wrote, "Remember that I was once an inspiration, but also a source of disappointment. Both can coexist in one person. I am not a demon. I am human." And I was wrong. During her time in detention, she began working on a memoir tentatively titled Behind the Name Colby. The book was expected to transcend the scandal itself, offering a candid confession about how she became ensnared in the whirlwind of fame, power, and misguided ethical choices. Beacon Press expressed interest in the project, contingent upon Danielle's commitment to donate all proceeds to the Frank Fritz Heritage Fund, a non-profit organization founded by Frank's family to preserve community history. Meanwhile, Danielle's legal team filed an appeal with the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, arguing that the sentence was overly harsh and based on speculative evidence and public opinion. However, the prospects appeared bleak. A legal expert from the University of Chicago remarked, "Federal appeals are rarely successful unless there is significant procedural error. In Colby's case, everything was carried out correctly. There is no basis to overturn the sentence." However, outside the prison bars, a small group of devoted supporters continued to believe in Danielle's redemption. On online forums, they reminisced about the chance encounters at fairs and how she had once fought for women and the vulnerable. They didn't deny her guilt, but argued that her downfall reflected a system with no way to amend the consequences. One Reddit user wrote, "She didn't kill anyone, but she stayed silent. That's blameworthy, but it's also educational." The overarching question remains whether Danielle deserves a second chance. Can society embrace someone once beloved but now convicted? The annals of show business are rife with tales of redemption and those whose names vanished post-scandal. For Colby, such a future is still too distant to discern. The only certainty now is that she is living and rewriting herself, hoping one day to be remembered not just for her conviction, but for the insights she gained from it. As the dust of the scandal settled and public outrage slowly faded from headlines, what remained around Danielle Colby's name was a conflicted legacy. Some branded her a betrayer of trust, while others still saw her as an icon, though no longer the symbol of feminist rebellion she once was. A cautionary tale that fame built on evasion and silence crumbles faster than anything else. The television industry has changed. So have its audiences. Since the trial, few still believe in the random coincidences of reality TV. Fans who once adored American Pickers now rewatch old episodes with a different lens, not out of excitement for uncovering antiques, but out of skepticism. Was that scene real? Who was truly behind those perfect negotiations? And most importantly, what did Danielle know, and when? Yet, even in that fragmentation, some things endure. Longtime fans still remember her as an inspiration. A history teacher in Kansas shared on a personal blog, "Danielle Colby captivated my students, especially young American women, through each antique artifact." The scandal was a shock, but it didn't erase the positive impact she once had. It is undeniable that this scandal has sparked the necessary conversation. The media has begun to scrutinize transparency in content more closely. Producers have become more cautious, and the law is evolving to adapt to an era where the line between reality and entertainment is no longer a characteristic of entertainment, but a societal risk. And whether by accident or design, Danielle Colby has become the catalyst for that change. A symbol of collapse, yet also a historical milestone for reality television. So what do you think about this change? Do you believe Danielle's scandal has really brought positive changes to the television industry? Don't forget to leave a comment with number 1 if you empathize with Danielle Colby, or number 0 if you have a different opinion. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next exciting videos. See you in the next videos.